Talking with the experts.
Some businesses obviously make sense if you're doing on, Instagram, but I think there's been so much change with like Facebook and, and let me preface, LinkedIn's got, its own challenges. It's not perfect. It's got, its own struggles. Believe me, those are discussed often with the group I'm involved with. And, some of the best LinkedIn experts that I know that are out there, but also, but it's also still the platform. I mean, it's just, when I first started, I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these career coaches. I felt like there's a career coach for every, it's like around every single corner, there's a career coach. And the reality, and I was like, and you start to wonder sometimes that voice in your head creeps in and says, oh, how am I going to stand out amongst, all of these other people? And, maybe this isn't the place. And the reality is it's actually, it's funny because once I started changing my mindset, again, I believe I'm heavy into mindset. I'm heavy into goals. But once I started changing my mindset that again, there's plenty to go around.
Talking with the experts.
Hello, my name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com and welcome to Talking with the Experts. Talking with the Experts is about all things business, by business owners, for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And I would love it if you go over to the YouTube channel, give it some love, and don't forget to tick on the bell so that you get notified when all the videos are uploaded in the future. Anyway, my guest today is Melanie Mitchell-Wexler, and Melanie lives in the US, and her business name is Find, Succeed, Achieve. It's a life career coaching business, and we're going to be talking about the roller coaster of owning a small business. Now, bringing 18 years of recruiting and staffing experience, Melanie started career and life coaching in 2017 to help people find meaningful and fulfilling work. Her success as a recruiter was driven by her ability to get her candidates hired. It is this innate knowledge of the market that she brings to her clients now as they navigate the job search process. Melanie helps her clients with everything from resumes, job searches, interviewing, LinkedIn strategies, that's something we might talk about, and building a successful personal brand. She thrives on helping her clients better understand themselves, find their passions, achieve their goals, and succeed in their careers. Welcome, Melanie, and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, LinkedIn is one of those platforms I think that people are still a bit too frightened to use, even though that they've improved their status online in the last couple of years. So what can people do when they're too afraid to update their profiles? Some really bad profiles. My goodness, they're just terrible. I wouldn't hire them.
Yeah, I think that, so when I was a recruiter, I used LinkedIn. I mean, I had a profile, but I didn't really use it to the full potential of it. And so when I pivoted and I started my own business, I all of a sudden was kind of put into this platform of like, okay, here's where your clients are at and how are you going to show up? And I knew nothing. I mean, I knew little bits, but I had to do a lot of research. And so that was, first off, learning how dramatically LinkedIn has evolved is like the first thing I think people are often surprised by, is that it's not, it's like the stuffy place that
Yeah, that it used to be. It's not like that anymore. It's
that
a
it was
little
just
bit
like,
more social, but not as social as Facebook or Insta or TikTok or one of those other platforms.
yeah,
Thankfully, because
thankfully
it's
it's
a
still
business
got,
site.
it is still a business site, and they're also now having conversations that are deeper than I feel like what's happening on Instagram or Facebook, that's actually talking about like, mental health, burnout, social issues that are happening within the workplace and within businesses, and what's happening with, in particular also with entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs are coming forth and talking about really hard topics about, it is a struggle sometimes to have your own business, and the struggles that you have with that. So I think it's a really, I love LinkedIn. And I think when people are afraid of it, it's in the beginning, it's really because people don't understand it. They don't understand anymore what it has evolved to. But then I always tell my clients, because my clients are usually like, I don't want to like, like put this information, like, does this really matter? Like, I don't want to waste my time. And I'm like, this is a platform where you could connect with somebody from Australia, in Australia and New Zealand, all over around the world. And, so it's one of those things that I think you have to, I think if you're in the business space, whether you're looking for a job, you're an entrepreneur, you're a subject matter thought leader, I think you really have to be there. I think you have to like really start to dive in and understand the benefits. But I really think the fear starts to come from, they think of it as this platform it was back in 2008. I know that's when I got started, and they don't realize that how much it's evolved. And, it's a place that you can truly connect and build a network and build your brand.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that's really where the fear comes from.
Yeah, and I think they're a little bit silly, but anyway, that's just my opinion. Yeah, some of the really professional people, I've seen some of their profiles, and really, if I were to hire them, if I were a recruiter, I wouldn't bother. But because it's just like, I don't know. It's awful. It's awful. It's painful, in fact.
Yeah, believe me, I look at a lot of profiles, and some days I'm like, wow, like, and I'm like, my clients will even tell me like, well, I've looked at profiles, there's like nobody I see does this, and I'm like, that's why we're doing it. Like,
Yeah.
I was like,
Your profile,
you're
I
gonna
think, really has
stand
to be
out.
set up really. It should be more of a conversation than a resume. People have been setting up their profiles like a resume or a covering letter
Yes.
or something, and it shouldn't be like that. It's back in 2008, yeah, it was an acceptable practice, but not now. People want to get to know that you, the person that they want to talk to.
Exactly.
So they can't get that from a resume or a cover letter. They need to know, do you like
Well,
to go to the beach, or do you like to, sniff glue, or whatever it happens to be, but
whatever your fancy is, it's like they want to see that personality. Because I, as a recruiter, as a former recruiter, can tell you, like, the most boring thing for me is if I got your resume and then I went to check out your LinkedIn profile and I'm reading the exact same thing. I'm not learning anything new about you. I'm not learning anything about your career, and especially the about section, where you have so much space to get into about who you are, what you're passionate about, what drives you. And you can share so much, and you can talk in first person. None of these things you can do on a resume, or you shouldn't do on a resume, I should say.
yeah, you
But
shouldn't do, no.
that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, you can be, you can show your personality. And I think, especially as a business owner, that's so important. People want to know, like, if they're going to hire you, they want to know who you are. They want to know a little bit about you. They want to know you're not the stuffy, like, just this, like you just copied and pasted,
yeah.
it's like, that's the easy way out, and so, I always start with the profile, and then I work to try to get people to understand why it's important, especially as a business owner. I think if you're not putting out content on LinkedIn, then you're just missing a huge boat. And like,
Absolutely, I totally agree
every
with
single
you.
day is like you're standing on the dock ready to get on the boat, and then you're just like, no, I'm not going to get on the boat today. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, there's somebody that's doing the exact same thing you're doing, that's getting on the boat every single day. They're working at it. It's a journey. I do a room on Clubhouse, in the Thought Leadership Branding Club, which I'm a part of. And it's a LinkedIn 101 room I do every Thursday evening. And so that's one of the things that I work with people on, really making that getting on the boat, from that analogy. Like, let's just get on the boat. Okay, what if you just got on there? What if you just did one thing every day? Like,
Yeah,
how hard is that?
it's not, I mean, because most people do their socials on Facebook or Instagram, or now TikTok. People are putting their businesses on TikTok. And, LinkedIn is sort of an afterthought. But really, it used to be that people used to buy from a business, but now actually they buy from people. People will buy from people. They won't necessarily buy from a business or a business name. They need to know who you are behind that particular product, brand, service, whatever. They want to know you. And, if you're not there and you're not in front of their face, they're not going to ever find you and never going to buy from you. So,
I mean, they want to know. I mean, some businesses obviously make sense if you're doing on, Instagram, but I think there's been so much change with like Facebook and, and let me preface, LinkedIn's got, its own challenges. It's not perfect. It's got, its own struggles. Believe me, those are discussed often with the group I'm involved with. And some of the best LinkedIn experts that I know that are out there, but also, but it's also still the platform. I mean, it's just, when I first started, I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these career coaches. I felt like there's a career coach for every, it's like around every single corner, there's a career coach. And the reality, and I was like, and you start to wonder sometimes that voice in your head creeps in and says, oh, how am I going to stand out amongst, all of these other people? And, maybe this isn't the place. And the reality is, it's actually, it's funny because once I started changing my mindset, again, I believe I'm heavy into mindset, I'm heavy into goals. But once I started changing my mindset, that again, there's plenty to go around. There's enough for everybody in this space, is definitely being able to, to be able to understand that, then you start to have a better space. And honestly, now I have a lot of career coaches. I comment on career coaches content as well. I have a couple that we exchange, like we collaborate together. I comment on their content. They come and comment on mine. I don't feel competitive with it. In fact, it's like, even though I work by myself, and, now it's almost like I have a colleague, that, is there to kind of cheer me on. And so it's really changed. When you change your mindset about something like that, it really opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're not commenting on people that are in your circle of employment or whatever, or your possible future clients, they're not going to know who you are. And I mean, through this podcast, in fact, I've and using LinkedIn, I've been able to hook up people of similar businesses or complementary businesses or whatever, and it's been really great because they're still working together, and it's a really great thing. And if you can foster that collaboration, that connection, using LinkedIn, then why not? It doesn't matter that, that they might have, take a client from you. I mean, you feel good about something that you've done, and they'll probably come back to you to say thank you and maybe reciprocate by introducing you to somebody that, can help you further. So I think, I don't know, people just don't look at it that way.
Yeah, I think you have to look at, you have to look at it as collaboration. You have to look at it as, again, going back to mindset. I'm big on the giving and the receiving, and putting that out there in the universe, and, and also just being grateful and, having the gratitude. I think those are the, some of the foundations, whether excuse me, you're in your own business or you're looking for a job or you're struggling right now, with everything that's happening in this world. I think those are the things that you kind of have to go back to and understand that if if you're putting that out there, not to get too woohoo on people, but if you're putting that out there in the universe, you are going to receive it back. Just having that mentality and that mindset is what is going to get you through, really honestly is going to get you through those tough times.
Absolutely. So we'll go on to, I guess, you've talked about mindset a lot. And so I know there is a huge roller coaster in being a small business owner.
Yeah.
It's ginormous. It's not plain sailing. It might be plain sailing for 6 months, 12 months, or whatever. And then all of a sudden there's a big dip in the road because, someone hasn't paid their bills or you're in lockdown all of a sudden or one of those things. So as a life and career coach, what can you advise people to do when, the dip happens and it feels like they're stuck in there?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through that dip, this comes from a girl that doesn't like the roller coaster and the amusement park. So, I have a daughter that loves roller coasters. Her mother does not. And so that's the one thing that, here I am, I signed up for this and I'm like, okay, what was I thinking? I think the first off, you do have to be, and it's funny because I had just this conversation with my best friend yesterday. We were texting back and forth, and I was just like, sharing some frustrations with my business right now. And here I am, 4 years, 3.5 years or so, into it. And I think I have to remind myself that this is, first off, this is a journey. I'm not, it is only about 3.5 years or so. And part of that was we've gone through a pandemic. And so I don't know, does that add like 5 years to a business?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think so.
Is it like cat years or something, or dog years?
Well, you're still in business after 3 years, so you're doing pretty well.
Right. Yeah. And so, it's one of those things that first off, I think you cannot compare yourself to others that are in the space, because there's always going to be, we look for mentors, we look for, people to follow, especially like on Instagram, I mean, there's definitely some people that I follow and, you wonder like, oh my gosh, I'm not there. And you get that comparison-itis, and you start comparing yourself. And that's the first thing you've got to stop. You've got to not compare yourself to the same journey, because it's not the same journey. Also, the person you're comparing is probably 5, 7, 10 years, maybe even more in their own business. So there's a reason they have, they're talking about 6 figures and, they have, 1 million followers for whatever that's worth, and they are, it seemingly seems like all they are is successful. And so that, I think, is the first thing, is you really cannot compare your journey to others. I think too, when you are in this business and you're on this road by yourself, you have to start to find people that you can have these conversations with that are probably also, entrepreneurs, people that are sharing the same struggles that you are. I find that it's hard. I'm very lucky that I have a friend that can, that can just listen, as opposed, because a lot of people in your inner circle may not understand the struggles and may tell you things like, well, wouldn't it be easier if you just went back to work? It's like, and I sit there and I'm like, well, I am working. First and foremost, I am working. And so second, so they just don't really understand. I'm sure they think they're doing good, but they don't necessarily understand the difficulties. So finding those people. And then I think it's just a matter of, always taking stock of where you're at, what can you improve upon? And, working towards, so if we are in a lockdown, okay, what can I do? What can I offer? How can I pivot? And so you always have to be, sometimes, we may be behind the curve, because obviously I don't think any of us were really prepared to be locked down, for as long as we have been, or whatever this new normal is going, God, I hope it's not the new, I hope lockdowns aren't the new normal. That's what I have to say. But I think that you really just have to, you really have to be able to pivot, take stock of what is working, what's not working. And if there's something that is still working in this space, you have to run with it, and you have to really pursue it, and you have to push for it. And that's where, you have to kind of, I would say in this period of time, even though it's usually not the best business sense, you do really have to put your eggs in some, more eggs in one basket than another. And so it's one of those things that I think you have to really be able to, continue to push forward.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. I think, a lot of restaurants and, eateries and things decided, well, let's do takeaway, like McDonald's and Hungry Jack's are now doing like takeaway food when they weren't doing it before the pandemic came. So,
yeah,
a lot of even like 5-star restaurants here have are doing home deliveries now, so that that they can still cater to their clientele. It's really smart move, but a lot of people didn't take up that challenge. I think they just thought it was all too hard, and it's their loss ultimately. But I feel sorry for them, because they've probably lost everything that they ever owned. And some people couldn't change the direction of their business. I can understand some people can't do that, but the majority of us could go online and do something. Speakers had to go online because there's online events now, and webinars,
right,
conferences, and all sorts of things. And now, and then occasionally we can have a hybrid event because we're not in lockdown so much. But yeah, so there are things that you can do to keep going. When you hit that that little dip in the road, or it might be a big dip, but there's always something you can do to crawl out of it. Like as you said, advice. Go and seek some advice from somebody. There's got to be somebody in your circle of entrepreneurs that you can go and chew the fat with a bit, and find out what they're doing and how they're coping, because not everyone's coping, and they might like someone to talk to as well.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that you have to realize you're not alone in this. Is that you're not. And you're right. There's some people that couldn't necessarily pivot, but I think for the most part, I think what we're also seeing is now when we talk about, hybrid events, is that I think hybrid events are going to stay. I think, I think that, when we've had these events that went online, all of a sudden, like, oh, the light bulb went off. Wow. Now I could have an audience still remote. I don't know why that didn't get thought of much sooner, but again,
people traveled everywhere, but just think of the cost saving. You don't have to hire a venue. You don't have to get catering. You don't have to fly or drive or train or bus anywhere. You can do it from the comfort of your bedroom, put a virtual screen behind you, and they wouldn't know that you've got a messy bedroom or whatever. Crazy.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things that I think it's amazing that people, so I think hybrid events are going to, so I think that's a perfect example of what happens is like, okay, if you didn't pivot to the online space, or if you didn't pivot to, say, doing speeches or giving presentations, whatever the case may be, if you didn't pivot to that, then you're now, and I don't know why I keep using this boat analogy, but we'll just go with it. You are missing the boat again, because these are gonna stay. Now it doesn't mean you still can't get on the boat. It still doesn't mean but you need to start thinking about, where is your space in this? Where is your, so I think as an entrepreneur, you always have to be, uh, I don't necessarily know that people are going to be thinking about like, oh, the next steps, or, sometimes we get caught up in the weeds, especially, if you're a solopreneur where everything is on you, and, you're doing everything, some days it feels like, but and it's easy to get caught up in the weeds, but you do have to, and I'd probably add that as another tip, is like, set some time aside to go through your goals, go through, really analyze where your business is, and, take that time to invest in that time. Sometimes it seems like, I think oftentimes when we talk about goals and things, those are kind of sometimes can be afterthoughts. Like, we don't really put aside the time because we think, oh, I've got to do this, or I've got this client work, or, I don't want to feel like I've wasted an hour of my day when I could have been doing this. And it really is about investing in yourself, but also investing in your business. And you really have to, again, you have to change your mindset on what that investment of time is. Plus, it's also good to walk away from all the stuff that you're doing and get a fresh perspective. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of people that maybe can't take their business online, they've got enough knowledge that they could go and teach, give presentations, offer to go and speak at some event or whatever online, and give your 5 cents worth because you obviously are in business because you know something. So why not share that knowledge? Don't keep it all to yourself, because there's others who want to learn. I mean, that's how I started this podcast. I just decided last year that business owners were doing it tough. So let's do a podcast and get business owners on to give advice, and it was just so easy. People say it's so hard to do a podcast, but it certainly isn't. And I mean, I've had, teaching platforms come and ask me to give lessons. So, and I'm a nobody in the podcasting world. So, compared to some other people.
Well, and that's just the other thing is like, again, looking at that comparison, like, yes, you may look at it and go, oh my gosh, there's all these other people that you could have asked, but there is something about yourself that, people were gravitated towards, to being able to say, hey, can you come and teach people how to do this? So there's always this space. And, and I look, and I'm like, well, I'm not, I could easily say as a career coach, like, oh, there's all these other career coaches out there. They, they've, they have their own niche or whatever. And, but I'm building mine from having been a recruiter. I have my unique perspective and viewpoint that I offer. And, and that's the thing that I have to own from that, and really, push forward with that, with that approach, and understand that, we each have our space in this. And, there's and again, it goes back to us not having a scarcity mindset. There's plenty to go around. There's room for everybody.
Well, there's 2 million podcasts, and I ranked about 14,000 at the moment, so that's not too bad out of 2 million.
That's not too bad.
No, that's not too bad after just 12 months. So I'm doing all right.
Yeah, you are.
Anyway, Melanie, have you written any books, or have you got a podcast or something that people can follow?
Yeah, so I have not written any books. That's something I am pondering, and it's going to probably be about LinkedIn and looking for a job and using LinkedIn. It's something that I'm kind of playing around with. But where people can follow me is on, first of all, you can look at my website, which is Find, Succeed, Achieve. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and of course, and then also really lately, what my biggest kind of big, I have been a guest on podcasts. I just have not taken on that challenge. I give props to you and the millions of other people that go on that technical challenge. I would rather be on this side of it than have my own. But what I have been doing is I have been on Clubhouse, and I've really been taking advantage of that. I'm in I co-mod a room called LinkedIn 101, Becoming a LinkedIn Rockstar. I do that every Thursday at 7 p.m. And it's in the Thought Leadership Branding Club. And that's really where I've kind of found my own space. My daughter we moved her off to college since, but she was with me, and one day she's like, I was like, oh, I completed that show. She's like, Mom, it's not a show. It's not. And I was like, it's a show to me.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
My little show.
Yeah, well, I've only just started on Clubhouse. I got to because I found out it was actually on, because I'm an Android user, and so finally they made it accessible for Android. And yes. I've only just joined, and I've not actually been involved in anything. I think it was just because there was something I was invited to. But yeah, I've not used it as a platform for my own teaching or learning. So I must make more use of it. I think I hear some good things about it.
I am not one, and I will preface this, I am not one to add anything to my phone if I don't need to. I would rather not have 1,000 and like telling me you need to add another app to your phone. Like I start to cringe at it. I'm at that point in my life. And so, but I did, I got on there, and I've really, I found a community that I really, that is super supportive, that's super, that I really am enjoying. But it's also a great, I've been able to connect even with more people, and, continue to build my platform on LinkedIn. It's helped me build my platform on Instagram as well, and, reach people that I probably would never have had the opportunity to connect with. And, and there's definitely so much more we could be, I could be doing from that standpoint, from a business standpoint as well. And, again, that's something that I've got to work on for the last quarter of the year, but that's one of my goals, and being able to really kind of build from that. So I just I always definitely would love to get connected with you, but anybody really also on the platform, check it out. It is open to everybody now, which is great. And there's a topic on everything, and literally everything. So
all right,
so definitely it's worth checking out.
Okay, I will make an effort to do it one day. Okay, Melanie, any last words of wisdom that you could impart to our listeners and viewers today?
Yeah, I think, the one thing that I'm always reminded of is being, probably the thing that, that's embedded in me is be resilient. I know these times are hard. I know, there's a lot everybody's facing. I think probably more so now as a world, that we have things that we're we can look at the pandemic as a good, and, as a good thing in the sense that it probably has brought a sense of, maybe some sense of unity, in the sense that we have an understanding of what you're going through is vice versa when you are in lockdown. And, and so, but you be resilient, don't give up. I mean, I know it sounds so simple and cliche, but it's true. if you pursued a business, there's a reason you pursued it. And, there's maybe kinks in the system and you got to work out, but so did every other single business that has ever been successful. There's no straightforward path. And, so don't give up on that. Don't throw in the towel, because, there's a lot out there that, there's a lot of people that need different types of services, and, people that are really, committed to that. So.
Yeah, very wise words indeed. Anyway, Melanie, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Rose.
Bye.
Bye.